I had a lot of fun with the Battlefield 6 beta. And it looks like a lot of other people did too. And if you're a gamer, no, not that kind of gamer, a true capital G gamer,
shoot a gun, dog. Learn how to fucking shoot a gun, you
then you've probably heard of a game engine. But what even is a game engine? And why do some people love some game engines, but then hate others?
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And with how impressive the destruction is in Battlefield, you would think that other games would have copied it, right? Like, what makes Battlefield so special? This is stuff TLDR. I explain things for people with dopamine-fried brains. Reading takes too long, so watch this video instead. And today, we're talking about game engines. Computers, and by extension, game consoles, are complex. Duh. How these things work is out of scope for this video, so if you want to know more about that stuff, leave a comment down below. When playing a video game, or doing anything on a computer for that matter, when you click a button on your controller, your keyboard, your mouse, whatever, it doesn't just immediately start moving bits around on the silicon. It has to first travel through multiple layers of software called a stack, with the operating system being one part of that stack that most people have probably heard of: Windows, Mac, Linux. And the game that you're playing on is an application at the very top of that stack. Okay, well, what about all the other junk in between? This is where a game engine comes in. The game engine provides developers with the tools needed to develop the game that you're playing. Imagine for a moment that you wanted to create a piece of art. What kind of art? Well, I don't know, I asked you to imagine this. Now, if you wanted to make a painting, what would you need? You'd need a canvas, you'd need some paint, an easel maybe. I don't know, I'm not an artist, but you'd need a couple of those things, right? Meanwhile, if you want to make a sculpture, you would need a giant block of marble and a chisel, and probably a time machine to bring you back to a century when people had time to do that kind of stuff. The point I'm getting at is that these are both art, but they both need different tools to get the job done. Right? And you wouldn't want to have to source your own block of marble or create your own paints, would you? I know I wouldn't. I mean, I'm too lazy to even make myself breakfast in the morning most days. You'd probably want to pay someone to give you a studio where all this stuff is just there, ready for you to use, at your disposal to make your art. This is basically what a game engine is. It's all the tools that developers need to make their art. But instead of marble or canvas or paint, a game engine provides tools like graphics rendering, sound, physics, networking, AI, and more. The Frostbite game engine was developed internally at EA and was first used in the 2008 hit Battlefield Bad Company.
Is this your idea of fun, Hacker?
Well, yeah.
Other notable franchises built using Frostbite include Mass Effect, Need for Speed, Dragon Age, Dead Space, FIFA, wait, what? Madden. I didn't even know that EA made Madden. Star Wars Battlefront, and forgetting one. Oh yeah, Anthem. You guys remember Anthem, right?
Listen, there's trouble. Big trouble.
What did you do?
I made a mistake. I hired some people. They weren't freelancers. I know. They said they could handle it, and the price was right.
To this day, Frostbite's still in use by DICE as the engine of choice for the Battlefield series, with the latest iteration of the engine being used for Battlefield 6. And you may be wondering where the name came from. Well, it's called Frostbite because devs want to cut their fingers off after having to build a game with it. Though EA did push Frostbite onto all of its game studios for all of its games back in 2015, and that backfired pretty quickly. BioWare in particular complained about the Frostbite complexities being the cause of a lot of the issues they had with their later games. Somehow BioWare's products got worse as they had more time with the game engine. Yeah, I don't think it was the engine, guys. But regardless of BioWare's troubles, it seems like Frostbite has a pretty good reputation, at least with gamers. It seems like if gamers know about the engine being used for a game, or if they just even have heard of the game engine name at all, that's usually either a very good sign or a very bad sign. For example, the Halo Blam engine, good. The Halo Slipspace engine, bad. Unreal Engine 3, good. Unreal Engine 5, bad. CryEngine, good. Creation Engine, kinda bad. I mean, mods are good, but graphics, physics, performance, pretty much everything else about that engine is terrible.
I mean, it's alright.
Anyway, back to Frostbite. So even though Frostbite was developed specifically for Battlefield, now you can see how a game engine is flexible and can be used to develop many different types of games. So going back to that art analogy, Battlefield would be like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and FIFA would be that art exhibit where someone just taped a banana to the wall. And it makes sense that multiple teams at EA would use the same game engine. That way developers and artists can move more easily between projects if they're all using the same tech. It would be like if you're used to using Microsoft Office, then moving to a team where everyone uses Google's equivalent would be a little bit of a learning curve. Or if they use LibreOffice, or if they use whatever crap Apple puts on their Macs.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f is that?
But the standout feature that most people probably associate with the Frostbite engine is not being used in Madden or FIFA. And that feature, of course, is the destruction system. Introduced in 2008 with Battlefield Bad Company, Frostbite and its destruction system revolutionized the FPS genre at the time. Though the engine and the destruction system with it have evolved over time, Battlefield is still a go-to example of destruction done well in video games, and there's a couple of reasons for that. For one, most games are static. Take other FPS games. For example, I don't know, Call of Duty. Sniper got you pinned down? Too bad. Now, cut to Battlefield. Sniper got you pinned down? Too bad. But at least now when you respawn, you can hop in a tank and drive it right through that motherfucker's house. The destruction system opens up gameplay opportunities that the level developers would be absolutely horrified to see.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you
We don't care.
The other reason Battlefield's destruction system is so well regarded is the performance. Back in 2008, the 7th generation of consoles, so the Xbox 360 and the PS3, they put out some absolute banger games, but they weren't exactly known to be the most performant consoles. So when Battlefield Bad Company released as a console exclusive with destruction and it was actually playable, that was a pretty big deal. The entire series prior to that, 1, didn't have the destruction system, and 2, was PC only. The magic is in how it works. Now, when an actual building in real life blows up, how does it collapse? Any guesses? That's right, gravity. The weight of the material above becomes too much for the weakened structure below it to bear, and it all breaks down. Battlefield destruction does not work this way. Battlefield buildings are designed with destructible points placed by artists that will be removed from the structure and then retextured when players do enough damage in the area around that point. Think of a building in Battlefield like a boss character in a video game. A really lame boss character. One that can't attack and can't move. The points on the building are like the appendages of a boss character that have their own little health bars that you can shoot off. Do enough damage and the boss comes down. And this is basically how Battlefield destruction works. And this is also why you can find some issues with it sometimes. Like, occasionally you can shoot off just the top of a building and the whole thing will come crashing down, kinda unrealistically. Over time, the engine has matured, and so has the destruction system. Like, one of the features they added is that the falling debris can damage you or even kill you. Or in the newest Battlefield game, the particle effects, the smoke, is volumetric, so there's a lot of extra weight to it. It feels very real and it fills the volume of space around you much more realistically. But it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. In recent years, people have complained that the destruction system has gotten, I don't know, worse. Like, you can destroy less stuff. So, what happened? Is DICE just stupid? Did they mess up Frostbite and its destruction system? Is Frostbite just bad now? No. They just don't want you animals ruining the maps they created every single match.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
As cool as it is to level the entire map, it gets a little old when there's literally nowhere to take cover. Now, Frostbite wasn't the only game engine to have a destruction system. It wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. So let's compare Battlefield's destruction system to a couple of other games, shall we? The most recent example is probably Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Switch 2. I haven't played it, but I've watched a bunch of videos on it, so as far as YouTube's concerned, that makes me an expert. Basically, the world is broken up into all these chunks that get removed for certain player actions, like smashing. And these chunks are called voxels. This is very similar to how Minecraft worlds are made up. Except Donkey Kong looks like it was actually made this century. There are no physics applied to these voxel systems, so if you destroy an entire layer underneath something, then the layer above it will just float. Another game which is very near and dear to my heart is Crackdown 3.
Motherfucker.
I haven't played them in forever, but I love the Crackdown games. And I even love Crackdown 3. I don't know what it is, but something about just running around the map, collecting all those agility orbs trying to run away from you, it just gets me going.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
And I'm not being sarcastic, I actually really like collecting the orbs. It's kind of cathartic to me. But the biggest letdown of Crackdown 3 wasn't that the agility orbs were a pain in the ass to collect. And it wasn't even that Terry Crews died in the opening cutscene despite all the marketing they did with him.
We are the strongest, baddest ass kickers on earth. Quack, quack.
Although that was a bit of a letdown. It was that the online multiplayer mode, called Wrecking Zone, was nothing like Microsoft made it out to be before the game released. I'm gonna read some of the actual marketing verbatim. Wrecking Zone is built on brand new technology that utilizes the cloud in ways never been done before, enabling players the ability to destroy entire buildings and cause mayhem on an unprecedented scale. The multiplayer mode takes place in a virtual arena dotted with gigantic explosive-filled skyscrapers, huge twisting sci-fi walkways, and electrified pitfalls. Notably, every chunk of these arenas can be destroyed by players, offloading physics computations to Microsoft's Azure cloud. So yeah, that didn't come to fruition. But you remember earlier when I was talking about how a real IRL building collapses and how Battlefield's destruction is performed because it isn't that? Yeah, well, Crackdown 3 was going to be that. All the super complex physics around how an actual skyscraper collapses and interacts with other buildings, that was all going to be done on some super powerful server on Microsoft's cloud platform, and then all the information about how the pieces would crumble down, that was all relayed out to the various Xboxes in the lobby, almost like as if it were playing at a cutscene. And unlike the Battlefield Levolution system, where, if you remember Battlefield 4, there was that map where, in the middle of the match, the entire skyscraper would come crashing down. Well, that was actually pre-calculated and would render out like a cutscene in the middle of a match. This was going to be real-time events. So the damage system would be completely different match to match, and the way that the building would fall, the way that it would interact with the other elements of the Wrecking Zone, that was going to be completely unique match to match. Now, would that have made Wrecking Zone fun? Probably not. Would it have been super sick anyway? Yeah, it would have been a hell of a lot better than what we ended up getting.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So knowing all this about the Frostbite engine, you might be asking yourself, why wouldn't every studio at EA just use the Frostbite engine? Well, the answer is probably not as interesting as you might think. You remember earlier when I was talking about how BioWare was complaining about having to use the Frostbite engine for all of their games? And you remember when I said,
hey guys, it probably isn't the engine?
Well, it probably actually kind of was. It's not that the Frostbite engine's bad or anything, it's just not what they're used to. If you're new to the channel, I'm an engineer.
Mistake.
I've worked as a professional software engineer for large corporations on big teams, and there's one thing that I can promise you is true of so many software engineers, and that is that they do not like change. Dealing with software can be a pain in the ass sometimes. Once you learn the quirks, then you know how to get around them. Being all of a sudden told, yeah, the exec said that we have to use Frostbite now, And then you ask, well, why? And the answer is, well, they think it'll sound good to shareholders. That's not exactly gonna motivate your team. Imagine this. You use a Windows computer every day, right? Or maybe a Mac? Surely you don't use Linux, right? Surely I do not have any Linux power user, basement dwelling followers, do I? Okay, now imagine getting told that you have to switch to Linux for some bullshit reason, and that if you don't do it, you'll lose your job. You might have heard of Linux. You might know that it can do all the things that your existing Windows or Mac computer can do, but guess how long it's going to take just to find the right flavor of Linux? Yeah, that's right. You thought you knew computers. You don't. Linux has flavors, like ice cream. Except if you pick the wrong flavor, you might not even have a graphical interface and you'll have no idea how to do anything. And unlike loading up Vim for the first time, you can't just turn the computer off and turn it back on to fix it. So yeah, I don't really buy that Anthem failed because they were forced to use Frostbite. But I can totally understand the studio being thrown for a loop, just being told out of nowhere, you have to use Frostbite now, when nobody probably even knew how to use it. However, the opposite can also be true. Some studios only work in Unreal Engine.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Everyone's heard of it, lots of people know how to use it, the licensing can be cheap, and the issues with the engine usually don't even get noticed by console gamers who can't even see more than 24 FPS.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So yeah, I'm not a game dev, but I am a software dev, and I get it. The reason other studios aren't using Frostbite is probably because they're just used to using something else. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one. Other notable franchises built using Frostbite include this is such a joke. Mass Effect. Mass Effect include Mass Effect. Mass Effect, Need for Speed, Dragon Age. Why can't I remember even the first couple words? Mass Effect Andromeda? Mass Effect Andromeda? Why can't I say that? Andromeda. EA Sports. It's in the game.